Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
I had been writing morning pages for about 5 years, off and on, since 1992. Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand writing done first thing in the morning, a brain dump, if you will, as prescribed by Julia Cameron in her influential work, The Artist's Way. Back in 1997, I had been writing for months about my frustration with my life, confounded by why I could not function as a normal adult. I was bound by my own ego and desires, by expectations, my own and those of my family, and by my addictions. My writing, stinky and honest as I knew how to be, was a record of failure and struggle. I was making life harder than it needed to be. That's the year that I decided to get help, and I found a therapist to get honest with. She's the one who told me that I needed to stop drinking and smoking pot, and she recommended an outpatient treatment program. I went to outpatient treatment, and I was mortified to be there. I was not what an alcoholic looked like, except the secret was, I was what an alcoholic looked like. And I started the hard work of getting clean and sober. I was lucky that there were resources available to me, and there is no doubt that getting clean and sober is an inside job. No one could do it for me or could want it for me more than I did. And I've learned that I must continue to navigate my ego and desires to live a productive and fulfilling life. This is a struggle that's daily interior spiritual work. Now, not so much to not drink. That's long, long in my past. Though every now and then after a particularly difficult meeting, one might think. It's not that. It's to be in right relationship with my ego and desires so that I can be present and useful in the world. To this day, I write morning pages about 4 days a week. It's one of my foundational spiritual practices, and it helps with the daily frustrations, expectations, foibles, failures, and ultimately, it helps me to find grace and gratitude. What happened to me and to so many others is that I finally made a change when I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. My sobriety is a gift wrapped in stinky paper. No one would ask for this gift, to be an alcoholic or an addict and then have to get sober. It's a gift wrapped in stinky paper, something you don't want to have to struggle with. And yet, when transformation emerges, gratitude for the struggle is inherent in the liberation. One of my favorite stories of liberation comes from the Abbey, which is a domestic and sexual violence shelter in Montana. A beloved summertime metaphor that they use there is the butterfly. And here's how they tell it. Beyond the symbolism of metamorphosis followed by flight, we connect strongly with the butterfly's struggle for freedom. The final exit from the butterfly's cocoon is also the most grueling part of her transformation. In order to escape the cocoon, she must struggle to free her body with its brand new wings from its safe place of sleep. At times, this struggle is so intense that the butterfly seems near death. But it's critical at this point that no one comes to rescue her. She needs to do it by herself. You see, the struggle to open her cocoon is what builds the strength in her wings. Without that struggle, the emerging butterfly lacks the strength to fly and to embark on her new journey in the world. Without this self-sustaining strength, she will perish quickly, and she needs to do it by herself. Those who have watched butterflies emerging from a chrysalis have often described the process as really painful to witness. All of the waiting and watching without intervening tests even the most patient of butterfly enthusiasts. I think this story has an important invitation, and also for me there's a warning in here that the metaphor is not quite perfect for us. Certainly for a personal struggle to make your way out of dangerous or unhealthy relationships, to engage in healing work, to address our mental or physical health challenges. We need to embrace our own inner strength to struggle for personal liberation, to prioritize our future at the expense of immediate comfort. Witnessing a child learning to walk, fall down, try again, fall down. Learning to ride a bike, fall down, try again, fall down, ouch. We see that we humans are made stronger by the effort and become more adept at the next struggle. For surely there will be a next struggle. But what about this no help part? Well, we're not butterflies and we need help. That same child, and the child in us, who says, I can do it myself. Maybe that's some of you, or maybe you remember those moments. Cultivating independence is a major life skill. But so is cultivating interdependence. Could it be that part of the struggle is asking for the help that we need? Might part of the struggle be recognizing when we need to ask for help? Maybe I want to do it on my own, and dadgummit, I can get there. But really, part of my internal struggle is knowing when to ask for help and seeking it out. Pushing through that mindset, the difficulties with the mindset of I can do it myself, when appropriate and well-boundaried help is available. That would feed into my ego and desire, not help me surrender with humility. Being engaged in struggle, whether it's struggle with our health, with our mental health, with the systems that we're a part of, a struggle for justice, requires both an interior strength, an interdependent strength, and that balanced with humility and surrender. To be interdependent is to embrace humility and surrender. I have to surrender to the notion that I don't have all the answers, that I cannot see the full picture, that I am always, always limited in my understanding of the whole. And this humility and surrender is a gift of change and transformation. There's so much change happening in our world, in our country, in our pocketbooks and politics, in our city, perhaps in our families, every single day in our bodies, changes in our congregation. You're on the cusp of a big change as both David and I depart from First Unitarian Society and you move into an interim period, and then the search for a new minister, ministers come and go in congregations. It's the way that it is supposed to happen. Members come and go from congregations. Board leadership turns over. That's the way it is supposed to happen. What we have available for us is wonderful help. You do not have to know all the answers or even how it will turn out. There is wonderful help available, and your board is working toward being a part of that transition. On March the 30th, 2 Sundays from now, the board will have a question and answer period at noon. That'll be our noon program on the 5th Sunday. Come ask them your questions. Find out what they're doing toward the transition, because it is healthy for congregations to do this. You don't have to do it alone. And there is a surrender to saying, we could learn some new things. We may feel like we want to get back to stasis with all this change that's around us. We may feel like we want to get back to stasis, to equilibrium. Can I just have my feet on solid ground that's not too dry? I know. To get on with our lives, and yet life teaches us that change is constant. Octavia Butler says in the parable of the sower, and again, hear her use of the word God as a metaphor for ultimate reality. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Ultimate reality is change. There's a fellow online named John Green who does a YouTube crash course in literature, and he says that Butler, through her character in this novel, Lauren Olamina, is trying to imagine a world that is not based on past models, not trying to get back in time or return to some golden age. Instead of longing for a world in which nothing ever changes, this new group that she's a part of has learned to embrace change and move forward. I hope First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism, that as you are moving forward with new ministry, you are not trying to get back to some golden age, but trying to understand what the next iteration will be. Change is an inescapable truth. Change is the basic clay of our lives. Butler says that throughout the universe, the ongoing reality is change. And this is true at the most basic level. Kinetic molecular theory explains the states of matter. You can tell I've been watching Oppenheimer. I could go a little bit to this. Kinetic molecular theory explains the states of matter, and it's based on the idea that matter is composed of tiny particles that are always in motion. This theory helps explain observable properties and behaviors of solids and liquids and gas. So when Butler says that we should shape God, she means we are shaping change, becoming engaged with change, because change is happening all the time. Shape change means to shape transformation, to engage with the life around us, to be adaptable with it, opportunistic, tenacious, interconnected, and fecund. All successful life is adaptable, opportunistic, tenacious, interconnected, and fecund. Understand this, use it, shape, change, shape God. So if Change is always the context. Transformation and evolution are ongoing. How do we live with so much uncertainty? We have to get you got to get balance, right? You need some core strength. You need core strength to live with this much uncertainty. Anthony Penn gives us some direction here. Humanist theologian Anthony Penn says that struggle-centered approaches, that means that outcome is not the center. Struggle is the center. Uncertainty is the center. Struggle-centered approaches recognize that we may never destroy systems of injustice in ways that constitute what we typically mean by freedom or liberation or justice. Rather than measuring success in light of destruction of the elemental nature of a troubled system, it is more useful to see in struggle our success. In other words, rather than seeing the outcome of equality and fairness, which would take dismantling the system that we live in, and by the way, that many of us benefit from, to see that struggle itself is the success. To be engaged in working to make the world a better place is itself the goal. Certainly we're working for outcomes. Certainly we're working for goals. But if we cannot see them or we cannot get there, the struggle itself is still vital. He says, in our ability to foster greater awareness, to expose injustice, we find something of our agency, our humanity, and our fundamental worth and value. And we capture this sense of ourselves and ourselves in relationship to others, all the while knowing that the system will adjust and we will have to continue to struggle. A win at the legislature does not mean that it's a win for all time. We know, right? We should understand liberation not as an outcome, but rather as a process of perpetual rebellion against injustice. We should understand liberation not as an outcome, but rather as a process of perpetual rebellion against injustice. And that's an activity that can call us all in. The theologian and writer Parker Palmer and Christian minister Carrie Newcomer asked this question in their podcast. We ask you the same question we asked ourselves. What's the growing edge of your life? And congregation, what's the growing edge of this congregation of humanism? We know we're humanists. So what? Where does it lead us? What difference will we make? It's not just that we've come out from something else. What difference do we make in the world? Both as a gathered community and individually. I know that you are, so many of you, working in your own lives to show up in different ways than the ways you were given. You have stretched those wings and come out. Now what? What's the growing edge of your life? Some find it inwardly as they reach for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Some find it with other people at an edge where a relationship needs to begin or change or end. Some find it in their work as they look for ways to bring their gifts into deeper alignment with their soul's imperatives and the world's needs. Others find their growing edge in joining the struggle for justice in a broken world. Some of you find it as you navigate with family members who are ill. You come together to find what a diagnosis means in your own life or in the life of your family and your community. Some of you find that growing edge when your knees get knocked out from under you, when a job that you relied on is gone, when the minister you thought would do your memorial service is not here anymore. What does the growing edge look like? And how do we find comfort in the continuing struggle to find both ease and comfort and live with discomfort? Maybe we are, in fact, a kaleidoscope of butterflies. Isn't that a nice group name? A kaleidoscope of butterflies? Maybe we are that, in fact. We have each come out of our ego, what ego and desire binds us, out of our cocoon, into gathering together to create beauty, to create movement, to create justice, to overcome addiction and illness, to be together and be of use. That's the what. That's the so what. Is coming together to create beauty and movement and justice and liberation that lives in the struggle. May it be so, and amen.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.